My father silenced me for 20 years using veterinary chemicals because I was born a girl. I was only 13 when he forced me into that basement ceremony. I lost my voice and my entire youth while he lived in blessed silence on his 80-acre farm. Last Sunday, I finally walked back into that dark house. What I did next. He never saw it coming. My name is Esther. I'm 33. I'm the oldest of my father's 5 daughters. My father raised us on 80 acres of farmland he inherited from his own father. 2 hours from the nearest city. One long gravel driveway. No neighbors close enough to hear anything. He built his own chapel in what used to be the tractor shed, and he wrote his own scripture in a leather-bound book he kept at the head of the kitchen table. He called himself a minister. He had no congregation. He had a family. His doctrine had one rule above all the others. He preached that women's voices are too powerful, that a woman's speech rots the soil, bends men, and turns good houses rotten. He said a righteous daughter was a quiet daughter, and a blessed daughter was a silent one. To make us silent, he had a ceremony. He called it a softening. It happened the first Sunday after a daughter turned 13. She wore white. She walked down the basement stairs on her own 2 feet, and she drank from a pewter cup 2 mouthfuls, no more. He told us it was blessed water. It wasn't. It was a veterinary muscle relaxant cut with an industrial ammonia-based cleaner, compounded by a man named Dr. Henry Ellis, who'd had his veterinary license pulled in 2006 after a horse died on his table. For the first week after, you could still rasp out a word or two. By the 3rd month, you couldn't. 5 years ago, an urgent care doctor in another state looked at me, puzzled, and wrote 3 words on my chart. Vocal cord paralysis. Then he asked me, very gently, what kind of veterinary compound I had been exposed to as a child. I typed my answer on my phone. He called a social worker. I told the social worker I was 30. I was an adult. There was nothing to report anymore. That was the lie I told myself for 20 years. Step 1 took our voices. Step 2 was scheduled for our 18th birthdays. There are 5 of us. I am the oldest. Ruth is 17, and she was 11 days from Step 2 when I got the phone call. Marin is 14, softened 4 months ago, already down to a whisper. Hannah is 11. Lily is 9. Both still speaking. Both on his calendar. My mother is 56 and has not said a single word out loud in 30 years. My 2 older brothers, Caleb and Silas, were raised to help him carry the cups. I got out at 18. I spent 15 years telling myself that if I made it, the younger girls would make it too. I ran and told myself they would run too. They didn't. The call came on a Tuesday in October. My Aunt B, my father's younger sister, who left the family at 20 and hasn't been welcome on the property in 36 years. She only calls when something is wrong. She said it fast, the way people say things they've been carrying alone. Ruth's softening was moved up. He's doing the completion early. 17, not 18. This Sunday, 11 days. I didn't know what to type back, so I didn't type anything. He's going to cut her, Esther. He's going to have Ellis cut her, and she's going to spend the rest of her life the way your mother has. I called the state police that same night. I used a text-to-voice app to speak. The detective was patient and decent. He listened, asked careful questions, wrote it all down, and the next morning he sent me a follow-up email summarizing what I'd told him, badge number at the bottom. I saved it. I printed it. I knew it would matter. At the end of the call, he told me, plainly, that the word of a nonverbal estranged daughter and an estranged aunt who'd never been present for the ceremonies was not a warrant. He needed live material. He needed imminent threat testimony from inside the house. He told me, plainly, that my voice was not enough. I sat with it for 48 hours. I did the math no one should ever have to do. If the police needed to see it happen before they could stop it, then someone had to put a camera in the room where it happened. I drove 2 towns over and paid cash at an electronics store. A small lapel clip recorder, the kind people wear at conferences. A prepaid phone, activated under my own legal name, on purpose. I folded both receipts into my wallet and dated them on the back in pencil. I already knew this would be a trial someday. I already knew chain of custody would matter. If I didn't walk back into that house, Ruth would never speak again. I drove up the gravel driveway on a Friday afternoon, 9 days before Ruth's Sunday. The house looked exactly the way I remembered it: 2 stories. White paint gone gray, a screen door that didn't close straight. Aunt B's number was saved on my phone as a single tap button, labeled nothing. The lapel recorder was clipped inside the collar of my coat. I had practiced turning it on without looking down. I turned it on before I got out of the car. My father opened the door himself. He is 61 now. His hair is white. His eyes are the same. He didn't hug me. He never had. He looked at me for a long moment, searching my face for something. Then he said it, slow and warm, the way he used to say grace. The prodigal daughter comes home. Blessed silence on this house at last. He thought I had come back to finish what I ran from. He thought I had come for my own completion, the surgical step I had fled at 18, the one he'd told me all my life was the only way to truly become his daughter. I saw the calculation happen behind his face, and I let him do it. I typed on a small notepad app and turned the screen toward him. I am tired of running. He read the words. He nodded once. He stepped aside to let me in. Your room is the way you left it, he said. Your mother kept it clean. He said, welcome home the way a trap says click. My mother was the first person I saw after my father. She came out of the kitchen wiping her hands on a dish towel and walked straight to me. She is 56, and she looks 70. She put her arms around me. She did not speak. She had not spoken in 30 years. But when she held me, she squeezed my right hand 3 times, 1 beat apart, slow, deliberate, a pattern. I did not know what it meant. I knew it was information. Then the sisters came out. Ruth, 17, in a gray sweater 2 sizes too big, pale down to her lips. Marin, 14, whispered my name Esther and the word came out half air. Hannah, 11, watched me from the doorway with her arms crossed. Lily, 9, hid behind her. Dinner was at the long table. My father at the head. The leather book at his left elbow, where it had always been. My brothers on either side of him. Caleb is 38. Silas is 35. They did not look at me. They watched him. He opened the book and read from it. He read that women's voices are too powerful. He read that the softening is a mercy and not a harm. He read that a family that has completed every daughter is a family that has been sealed. Then he closed the book and looked at me with something close to joy. Because our prodigal has come home, he said, we will complete her tomorrow night. One day before Ruth. As a gift to the family. Caleb shifted in his chair. Marin tried to catch my eye and mouth a word at me. I couldn't read her lips. Caleb saw and moved between us. My father smiled and told me I would go first. As a blessing, I didn't sleep. I lay in my childhood bed with the recorder still running and listened to the house the way you listen to a strange building, every beam, every pipe, every footstep on the stairs. At 5 in the morning, I heard my mother go down to the kitchen. I went after her. She was making coffee the way she had made it every morning of my life. Grounds measured by hand. No kettle whistle, she used the silent kind. She moved around me like I was furniture, and then, very quietly, she set a coffee cup in front of me and covered it with a folded dish towel. When she slid the towel back to take it away, the cup was gone and there was a small round tin on the counter instead. The kind that used to hold throat lozenges. She did not look at me. She turned back to the stove, knelt down, and pried up one of the floorboards with her thumbnail. She did it fast, the way you do something you've done 1,000 times. Under the floorboard was a wooden cigar box. Inside the cigar box were more tins, all the same size, stacked in rows. She slid the new one onto the top of the pile. She put the floorboard back. She stood up. I opened the tin on the counter. Inside was a micro SD card, the kind that fits a phone, and a square of notepaper folded into quarters. The writing on the paper was tiny and shaking, the kind of handwriting a person uses when they're afraid someone will come in. It said, every ceremony, 30 years. Floorboard, under the stove. Mama? I counted the tins on the top of the stack before I closed the cigar box. 18. 18 small tins for 18 ceremonies. Every cup, every prayer, every daughter, every niece, every cousin my father and his father before him had ever called down those stairs. The one in my hand would have been the 19th. She had made it ahead of time. She had been planning to record tomorrow night. She had been building this case since before I was born silent. I put the tin in my pocket. I kissed the top of her head. She did not move. I walked out the back door and across the yard to the barn, so I could do what I needed to do without the house listening. I pulled out the burner phone. I transferred one of the audio files off the card, the most recent one I could find dated 11 months ago, Marin's softening, and I sent a clip to the detective. His reply came in 6 minutes. I read it standing in the hayloft. He wrote that the recordings were historical. They confirmed pattern but not imminent intent. A judge would need live material, or direct eyewitness testimony from someone inside the house at the time of the event. The earliest a warrant could realistically be signed was 36 hours. The earliest raid window, 48. Ruth's completion was in 33 hours. Mine was in 20. I stood in the barn and did the math. If I waited for the police, Ruth would be on the table before they arrived. If I didn't wait, I had to let my own ceremony begin on camera long enough for imminent threat evidence to exist on a live feed, short enough for me to survive it. There was no version of this where I did not walk down those stairs. So I went back inside and helped my mother polish the tools meant for my throat. The rest of Saturday passed slowly. My father prayed over every meal, over the tools. At 6 in the evening, Dr. Henry Ellis walked up our driveway on foot. Late 60s. Stooped. His coat smelled of whatever he'd been drinking on the bus ride from town. His hand shook. A prescription pad stuck half out of his pocket. He did not say hello. At 6:30, my Aunt B pulled up in her own car, uninvited. I thought my father would turn her away. He didn't. He stepped aside and held the door for her, and I saw the look on his face, a man who wants the sister who fled him to watch the prodigal return. Full audience. Full vindication. The basement was exactly the way it had always been. Concrete floor, painted white, a bare bulb in a cage over the table. A padded vinyl table at the center. The clinic sticker was still half peeled off the leg. A stainless steel tray on a rolling cart. A small stack of prayer cards at the head of the table, face down. By 7, the whole family was down there. Mother, Aunt B, Ruth in a white cotton shift, Marin, Hannah, and Lily on a bench against the wall. Caleb at the stairs. Silas at the door. My father had given me my shift in a paper bag. I clipped the phone inside the stiff collar before I buttoned it. I started the live stream, sent the link to the detective, and walked down. He searched my pockets at the basement door. He did not touch the collar. The bulb flickered once, and my father said, "We begin." Ruth was placed on the table first. She did not resist. Marin reached for her hand, and Silas moved the bench back a foot so she couldn't touch her sister. Ellis uncapped a small brown glass bottle. The label read, in plain English, the chemical name of a veterinary muscle relaxant. Beside it sat a larger bottle of ammonia-based cleaner. He measured both into a pewter cup with an eyedropper. My father picked up the first prayer card. "Women's voices are too powerful," he read. "They rot the soil, they bend men, they turn good houses rotten. The softening is a mercy. A return to blessed silence. We have practiced this ceremony in this family since my great-grandfather's time. Tonight we restore the peace of our house." He turned to me. He did not turn to Ruth. "You first," he said. His voice was soft, almost loving. "Ruth needs to see that the softening is mercy. Come up onto the table, daughter." He stepped toward me with the cup in his hand. The phone at my collar had been set to buzz once for every 1,000 viewers. It had buzzed twice since I'd walked into the room. By the time my father lifted the cup toward my mouth, it had buzzed for the 9th time. Somewhere 2 hours away, a night shift editor at a regional news desk was forwarding an unlisted YouTube link to her boss. And somewhere across the basement, my mother stood up. I heard her pick up the bottle of ammonia cleaner from the tray. I heard her draw a breath, the first breath anyone had heard from her in 30 years. Then my mother, silent for 30 years, made a sound. It was one word. "Run." And she threw. The bottle hit my father in the left temple and broke. Ammonia fumes spread fast in a closed concrete room. Ellis dropped his tray. The steel instruments rang on the floor. Ruth rolled off the table. Marin grabbed Lily and pulled her down behind the bench. Hannah froze. My aunt shoved Silas sideways into the wall and screamed at him to stay down. Caleb moved to block the stairs. I looked at the phone at my collar. I angled it up so the camera caught the room. The detective had already texted back. "Units 18 minutes out, do not move." Somewhere out past the ceiling, on 22,000 phones in strangers' hands, my mother's one word was being clipped, captioned, and forwarded. My father's face was already a screenshot. The basement door was the only way out, and my brother was standing in it. I did not try to push past Caleb. I was not going to win that fight, and Ruth was the one who needed to reach a door alive. So I stayed where I was, in the middle of the room, with the phone at my collar facing the only people who mattered. Caleb looked at our father. Our father was sitting on the concrete now, one hand pressed to the side of his head, the other still wrapped around the pewter cup. The cup had not spilled. "In the stream, Caleb," he said. His voice was the same calm it had always been. "Take her phone. Caleb took one step off the stairs. He stopped. He had watched me type on a notepad for an entire dinner the day before because he had been raised not to look a silent woman in the eye when she had something to say. He looked at me now. I unclipped the phone from my collar. I held it up, screen out. I turned it toward his face, then Ellis's face, then the prayer cards, then the brown glass bottle with the veterinary label still on it, then the broken ammonia bottle on the floor. I typed on the screen, and the live caption repeated every word aloud for the 22,000 strangers watching. My name is Esther. I am 33. This is my father's basement. He just tried to pour this veterinary compound into my mouth. My sister Ruth is 17. She is next. Please call the county sheriff. I held the phone up for a slow count of 10. The viewer counter rolled past 30,000. Caleb watched all of it. He did not take the phone. The detective's text window on my screen kept pulsing with new county dispatch replies. My name was in 30,000 strangers' feeds before my father stopped bleeding. Then my father stood up. The cloth he was holding against his temple was red through. He looked at Ellis, who was on his knees, trying to pick up scattered instruments with hands that would not stop shaking. Then he looked at the pewter cup still in his own hand. Ellis had dropped his measured dose, but my father had not dropped his. Esther, my father said, very softly. Come here. I will finish this myself. He took one step toward me. I reached down to the tray at my hip and picked up the scalpel. I did not raise it. I did not lunge. I held it between us, blade angled down, the way a person holds a letter opener they do not want to use. My hand was steady. Somewhere in the back of the basement, Hannah made a small sound. I typed on the phone. The stream read it out. If you take one more step toward any of us, I will end this. Not them. You. My father stopped. He tried one last thing. His voice went gentle, the voice he had used on me when I was 7 and crying, the voice that had always worked on my mother. He said I was hysterical. He said I was lost to the world. He said I had been poisoned by the outside and would see the mercy of this ceremony again in time. I did not answer. I did not type. I did not move the scalpel. For 20 years he had taught me my voice would destroy the world. In that basement, on that night, I did not need a voice at all. I just needed to stop pretending his was bigger than mine. Somewhere above us, the first siren came up the driveway. Then the second. Then more. The sirens came up the driveway the way sirens always come in that County 1 cruiser first. Then 3 more behind. Then state. Then an ambulance. Then 2 local news vans because somebody at a regional night desk had made a call nobody expected her to make. SWAT came in hard. Dr. Ellis went down first, already on his knees, hands open. My brothers were on the floor inside 90 seconds. Caleb crying, Silas silent. The phone at my collar was still streaming. The officer who reached me looked at it, looked at me, and left it on. He knew what it was. My father tried the only card he had left. He stood up straight. He smoothed the front of his shirt. He spoke the words he had rehearsed a lifetime of Sundays for. This is a private family matter, he said. A religious ceremony. You have no authority in this house. The officer in charge was a woman in her 50s, Sergeant Stripes, and she had not said a word since coming down the stairs. She put him in handcuffs in the middle of his sentence. Sir, she said, step outside. They walked him up the basement stairs. Into the yard. Past the neighbors who had come out for the sirens and stayed for the rest of it. Past the cameras. Behind him, in evidence bags one after another, the brown glass bottle with the veterinary label still readable, the prescription pad, the pewter cup, the cigar box from under the kitchen stove, the leather book from the head of the table. My mother had not moved since she threw the bottle. She was sitting on the concrete floor. Lily was in her lap, both fists gripping her sleeve. Aunt Bee had her arms around my mother's shoulders from behind. The sergeant came back down the basement stairs alone and knelt next to her. She did not ask her to stand. She did not tell her what to do. She looked at my mother the way one woman looks at another when she already knows what she is about to hear. My mother lifted her head. She looked directly at the phone at my collar at the lens the way a person who has waited 30 years to be recorded looks into a camera. Her voice, when it came, was like paper. Thin, dry, unused. It did not shake. My name is Ruth Ann, she said. My husband hurt our daughters. There were 19 ceremonies in this basement. The first was my sister Martha. The last was tonight, with my daughter. The man who mixed the cup is Dr. Henry Ellis. My sons held the door. She took one slow breath. Every date, every name, is on the cards under the floorboard, in the cigar box under the stove. The sergeant put her hand over my mother's hand. "Thank you, ma'am," she said. "We heard you." The stream counter passed 80,000. A female officer came to me next. She looked at the scalpel still in my hand and asked me, gently, if I would put it on the tray. I did. She asked if I wanted to give a statement. I nodded. I typed on the phone, and she read it aloud for the stream and for the body camera on her shoulder. "My name is Esther. I am 33 years old. I have not spoken a word out loud in 20 years. My father told me all my life that women's voices were too powerful. Tonight, I believe him." Out in the yard, as they loaded my father into the back of the cruiser, he turned his head toward the camera and shouted something about God's plan. From across the drive, an old woman I did not recognize, a neighbor who had lived across that road for 40 years and had never once set foot on our property, called back at him, flat and unimpressed. "Shut up, Henry." A paramedic examined my throat in the back of the ambulance. She told me, quietly, that the vocal cord paralysis on my chart looked partial. There was a surgery. There was a chance. The last image the live stream captured, before a gloved hand reached up and ended it, was an evidence bag being zipped shut around a leather-bound book. I stood in the basement where my voice had died 20 years earlier and watched my father be led out in handcuffs. For the first time in 20 years, I made a sound. I laughed. The case took 11 months to go to trial. My father was charged with conspiracy to commit aggravated assault on a minor, unlawful restraint, and 19 related counts. The federal trafficking and conspiracy overlay caught what the state statute of limitations could not. Dr. Henry Ellis pled out on practicing medicine without a license, administering a controlled substance without authority, and conspiracy. Both my brothers took plea deals against our father in exchange for reduced sentences on accessory counts. My mother was not charged. A victim witness advocate walked her through the decision, slowly, in her own time. 4 months after the basement, I had surgery on the partially paralyzed cords. The doctor told me my voice would not be what it was at 12. He was right. It came back raspy, quiet, lower than I expected. Unmistakably mine. Ruth and Marin began vocal therapy in the spring. Hannah and Lily enrolled in public school for the first time in their lives. My mother moved in with Aunt B. The leather book my father wrote sits in a federal evidence vault and will not be read aloud again. The voice you are about to hear, for one line only, is my real one. He called it blessed silence. I call it my voice. And today, 20 years late, I am finally allowed to use it. In